Nicolas Cage has Spider-Noir is already out on Prime Video. The series blows up instantly. Black and white visuals, heavy noir atmosphere, hard-boiled dialogue, and Cage absolutely going all in as a broken, older Spider-Man from the 1930s. Meanwhile, Tom Holland is preparing for Spider-Man Brand New Day, set to release in July 2026. The MCU Spider-Man is still young, still evolving, still dealing with the aftermath of No Way Home. And that's when the question naturally hits. Will these two ever meet? Will we ever see Tom Holland's Peter Parker standing face to face with a cynical, world-weary Spider-Man from another universe? On paper, it sounds insane in the best way possible, but officially, Spider-Noir is currently positioned as a separate universe. No direct connection, no confirmed crossover, just its own standalone interpretation of a darker Spider-Man story. Still, this is Spider-Man we're talking about, and after No Way Home, the idea of separate universes doesn't feel as final as it used to. The multiverse is now fully established in both Marvel and Sony storytelling, so technically anything can happen. But here's where my concern kicks in, because if Sony doesn't take advantage of this properly, I feel like they might be repeating the same mistake they already made once before. Remember the Sony Spider-Man universe? SSU, Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, a whole attempt to build a shared universe without actually using Spider-Man as the emotional anchor. And the result? Inconsistent tone, weak storytelling, poor audience reception, and a universe that never really felt alive in the way they intended. It felt like Sony was trying to build a shared universe just for the sake of having one, without a clear creative direction holding everything together. Eventually, it all started collapsing under its own weight. Now, fast forward to Spider-Noir. This is different. Spider-Noir actually works. It has identity, it has tone, it has style, and most importantly, Nicolas Cage's performance gives it real personality, which is why this feels like a golden opportunity, because now Sony actually has something that could naturally bridge into a larger live-action Spider-Verse. Not forced, not rushed, but organic. But imagine Spider-Noir crossing paths with Tom Holland Spider-Man. A live, emotional, talkative Peter Parker meeting an older, exhausted version of himself who has already seen too much. The contrast alone is cinematic gold. One is still learning what it means to be a hero, the other already looks like he's survived being one for decades. That dynamic writes itself. And it doesn't stop there. If done right, this could lead to something even bigger. Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Nicolas Cage Spider-Noir, even Miles Morales in live action someday. Sony already proved with the animated Spider-Verse films that audiences love this concept. The multiverse Spider-Man idea isn't just popular, it's one of the most beloved modern superhero concepts out there. So the question isn't whether it would work, the question is why it hasn't fully happened in live action yet. Because right now, Spider-Noir feels like a perfect missing piece, a version of Spider-Man that can connect the grounded MCU tone with something darker and more experimental. But instead of building towards something big, Sony might choose to keep everything separate again. Individual projects, isolated stories, no real crossover. And if that happens, it honestly feels like a missed opportunity all over again. Because we've seen this pattern before with SSU. Big ambition, disconnected execution, and eventually audience fatigue. That's why Spider-Noir matters more than it looks on the surface. It's not just another Spider-Man spin-off. It could be the key to the first truly successful live-action Spider-Verse, but only as Sony is willing to take the risk. There are already signs of potential openness. Nicolas Cage has hinted in interviews that he's open to interacting with other Spider-Man variants. Tom Holland has also shown interest in multiverse stories continuing beyond No Way Home. And with Avengers Secret Wars on the horizon, the door is technically wide open. All the pieces are there. The only question is whether Sony and Marvel are willing to actually put them together. My prediction? There's a small chance we see some form of crossover between Spider-Noir and Tom Holland Spider-Man in the late 2020s, maybe tied to Secret Wars or a major multiverse event, but only if Spider-Noir performs well and Sony realizes the value of connecting these worlds instead of keeping them isolated. If they don't, then we're probably stuck with separate Spider-Man projects again, each interesting on its own, but never reaching their full potential together. And that would honestly be frustrating, because this is one of those rare ideas that feels too perfect to waste. Spider-Noir and Tom Holland's Spider-Man meeting isn't just fan service, it's storytelling gold. Sony just has to decide if they're brave enough to actually use it. But what do you think? Do you want a Spider-Noir and Tom Holland crossover, or should each Spider-Man stay in their own universe? And do you think Sony will finally get the multiverse right this time, or repeat the same mistakes again? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.